Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once more to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And I believe it's 4 matches that they've announced here for the upcoming Genesis. So we will be. I guess I will talk about them a little bit. I guess we'll talk about them in the order that they've got them here on this card. I guess they're all pretty similar. I guess this doesn't matter. I want to talk quickly though about 2 things before we talk about anything that's happening anything new that's happening on this card. Well, I guess this might be somewhat new, but whatever. This week, Moose did throw down, or quote-unquote throw down, the X Division title and said he's going to debut a new X Division title. So that's what people were talking about and have been talking about for, I don't know, months. But then again, this is the thing about having a taped show, especially so far in advance. And some of these things, yes, they get taped on the first night and then they get decided upon saying, okay, well, that's actually going to be on night 3 or night 4 or whatever it is. So it's one of those things when you're taping things, especially so far in advance, and sometimes you don't know where you're going to put something like this. It's one of those things. I kind of feel like he should have just held on to the X Division title until, he's actually facing Ace Austin and said, hey, I'm just debuting this new title. But yeah, whatever. Kind of nice to see Andrew Everett back. He didn't get much reaction out there, but it was nice to sort of see him. And even though he was in a very jobbing sort of losing effort there, but, I'd like to see him stick around. I don't know whether he can stick around, but surely they can offer him something to stick around. But that is cool to kind of see a new X Division title in some ways, but it's kind of like, well, the title really looked pretty good as it was. Like, I don't think it looked that bad. I think, obviously you can do stuff with it to make it look better, but it's like, well, changing the title all the time isn't good. It's just like, yeah, every now and again, sure, change it, that's fine. 100%, but I hope they don't change it again too quickly, or if they do, I hope they just change it back to the old title or whatever it is. Actually, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was kind of thinking that it revolves around the title, the old title or whatever, and things like that and whatever. But it is what it is. First off, we haven't got any of the Countdown show matches yet or anything for the Countdown show. So we'll wait and see what's happening there with that and see where that's going. The Knockouts Tag Team title match between Spitfire and Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance. I should have just, said Ash and Heather by Elegance. Sure, fine. I kind of don't know where this is, like, I would say that the Elegance duo are winning these titles because it's like, what else are you going to do with Spitfire? Because it's like, you can never really have like a good reign as far as like just being like reigning champions unless you're the heels, unless the baby faces are trying to win those titles back. I've said this a million and billion times. I'm going to have to say it a billion million more. These titles are the most irrelevant titles in the company. They could very easily do without them and just focus more on singles rivalries building up to the championship because again, they really do not have enough people for the singles division. Ash could be facing Marsha at some point. Sure, okay, sounds all right. But then you'd have to take her out of the tag team division if she's a tag team champion, and that makes the tag team champion look bad. So it's like, well, then you're not going to do that. And then who are you going to... And the same for Heather. It's like, well, why are you going to do that? You've got to find somebody else to have them face them, the champion. And in regards to that, actually another thing that I thought was really silly was that Savannah Evans fought Li Ling Lee, who was a surprise return tonight, which was crazy as well. I felt like, man, this was going to be a DQ or a count out or something, so this is going to transfer to the pay-per-view. Nope. Li Ling Lee just beats Savannah Evans. Yes, in a very hard-fought match or whatever, but, you know, I felt like Savannah Evans hasn't been getting any TV time, and she needed to be legitimized, and she needed to be pushed up to being, like, one of the ones to being, like, facing Masha. That's not going to happen now. You know, it's like, what are you doing with Li Ling Lee? There's not going to be much of a... You know, you can tell a story, but it's not going to have any real, like... anything to it, you know? I want to challenge you because I want to challenge you because I want to be the best. That's, you know, like, yes, you can have that, but there needs to be more than that. You know, you could have that on a B show of some sort, okay, but then where's Savannah going? What's she doing? Is she just back to being a jobber now? Like, sucks for her, you know? Like, it's the same thing. It's just really tough to do these sorts of things to people, and it's like, well, you know, why are you doing that? You know, why not save it? Why not build it up more? Why not give Savannah somebody, you know, feed somebody to Savannah? Because she hasn't even really won hardly any matches since coming back. So it's like, what are you doing with her? You know, like, at a certain point as well, it's the same thing I see in WWE and in AEW. They don't really know what to do with some of these people sometimes. I really don't think they know what to do with these people. This would have been a great moment if it had been on the pay-per-view, or if, you know, you had built to it more and said, you know, all right, they're going to fight each other. And I get that Jordan and Tessa got the pull-apart brawl with the security, but, like, you could have done something to have these girls, you know, been pulled apart or something, and it, you know, or have Savannah leave Li Ling Lee laying or whatever, and or something else, and, you know, I don't know. Or it couldn't have not been Li Ling Lee or something else. Like, I don't know. Whatever. It's just so silly to pop the balloon so quickly and just to be like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do with you now? Oh, shit, yeah, that was the only thing we had for you. Right. You know, like, yeah, sure, there are other people that are in the division, again, like Ash and Heather, but again, they're in the tag team division. Besides that, there's Blanchard, and then there's Marsha and Rosemary, and then that's about it. You're done. There's no one else. And then there's Lisha, who's not really wrestling very much. That's about it. And Tasha, who always loses as well, or pretty much always loses, and she hasn't even been featured. Her win over Jordan wasn't even significant, which it should have been. It should have been super significant. Again, like, so many of these little things just are these missed shots that you could have taken and could have been much, much more. Alright, since I'm talking about female wrestling, we're going to talk about 2 female wrestling matches. Jordan versus Tessa. Look, Jordan's leaving. We know she's leaving, or it's been rumored for a long time that she's leaving, and this is the time that she's going to be leaving, apparently. So, yep, I'm feeling like she's losing, even though it's in her home state or whatever, home city, whatever, all that, blah, blah, blah. She's losing. She's leaving, so she's putting over Tessa on the way out. And I'm assuming at some point Tessa's fighting Master Slamovich, which I hope it's soon, because I kind of want Tessa just to be the champion, just to friggin', well, have somebody at the top of the division that can carry the division. That or Rosemary or somebody else who can friggin' carry the division with some sort of character and some sort of story, rather than just, I'm here and I'm the champion and try to beat me. That is it. Like, we already had that. If you have that, that's fine. But if you have it and then you have it again, it's like, well, we just had that. Like, you need something else more so to break that up and not just the same goddamn thing. So next, Master versus Rosemary. This is now a Clockwork House of Fun match. So I don't even 100% know that, this is 100% earned in some ways, but I guess it is in some ways. But it needed a little bit more work to get it over the line, I guess. But then again, I guess it's one of those things that's just been like, this match should have been like together, like as well, like weeks ago. Like this should have been announced ages ago, but it wasn't. It was just like, again, like why are you taking so much time to friggin' announce this thing, or set it up or do anything with it? Like, again, and they had 2 promos tonight, or 2 separate promos from Rosemary. And it's obvious one of them should have been like 2 or 3 weeks ago or something, or whatever it was. And this one should be, tonight or whatever. Or maybe like coming up close to say, hey, or the next week or something. They were pretty short promos, to be honest. But just like making these things, like stretching these things out. And like, yes, I know, again, it's not like these girls need to draw the crowds in. But again, it's not just people, buying the show based on, yes, people buy the show even though there's nothing announced, but still you've got to announce things so that people can go, oh, okay, this is what's going to be on the show. Oh, okay, this is what we're buying into. Oh, okay, it's not just, Hendry and Nemeth. It's this, it's that, it's this and that and the other thing. So there's a lot on this show that, is going to be like every single thing. All these matches are going to be really, really good, if not great. And, again, I don't know how long Tess is going to be in the company, because we've heard, as we said, we've heard that WWE has some amount of interest in bringing her in. And honestly, actually, I want to pause on that, because so far as we know, Jordan is going to WWE, and there is the potential for Tessa to be going to WWE very soon as well, maybe in the next 6 months or maybe year or so, whatever it is. And there's a few other people that I think are going to WWE or were looking to go to WWE. There were a few people, like we were talking about Aiden Prince and a bunch of these other people that were on the roster effectively, but they were never friggin' on TV. And again, this is the thing, like same with what I was saying with Savannah Evans. If you know you're not going to use these guys, or you're only going to use them on a temporary basis or a one-off basis, same with Khan, same with a lot of these other people that, came in and just went. It was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you could have done something with them. And it's like, same with PCO right now, even though him and Callahan are having a tag match next week. It's like, so what? So what? Like, literally, so what? Like, I like PCO, and he's an icon, and he's a legend, and he's done a lot of amazing things in this business. But the thing is, it's like, dude, you've got to start realizing it's time to think about putting them boots up. You've got a lot of people that are, in this business that are older than you, that have hung up the boots, or even younger than you that have hung up the boots. It's amazing what he can do, yes. And he wants to do it for as long as he can. That's great. But, time to move past him. What's he even done recently? Nothing. Like, again, like, for frick's sake. Like, seriously. I don't understand what you're doing. You've got to, like, again, I love seeing these matches that they put on free TV, and I don't like seeing these really, really short matches, but sometimes, like, seeing some of these short matches that don't really, like, preclude to anything, or lead to anything, or add to the stakes, or whatever else, really doesn't do anything. Again, like, the Rascals had a match tonight, and it was basically fairly much a squash match for them. It's like, dude, what does that do? They've already beat the Good Hands like 5 or 6 times, or whatever it is, I think. Whatever it is. Plus, again, it's like the Good Hands are a jobber tag team, like, effectively, and everyone knows it. So it's like, we know they're not winning. So it's like, what is the use in that TV time for them? You know, yes, it's good for the good hands in some ways because they finally get some friggin' TV time, but it isn't because they're not going anywhere. You know, and I get not everyone has to be, but again, it's just one of those things. It's like, if you're going, and maybe like I said this before, like, oh, what if the good hands are going to break up or whatever it was, you know, that sounds fun in some ways because it would give them something to do, something to work with, you know, a story, and leading to some sort of payoff of some sort. Again, like they just like quote unquote injured Gresham this week, and it's like, well, like where's that going? Like what, you know, like I kind of want to see Gresham come back with his like octopus gimmick, like just like if it's the last time we're going to see him and whatnot, because apparently he's leaving too about the same time as Grace. And honestly, Grace and Tessa needs a stipulation as well, but whatever. I still think that like doing something with these guys and just being like, yeah, we're going to do something with them. You know, we're going to showcase them and we're going to really like bring the source. You know, we're not just going to, you know, have these guys here and they're not going to do anything, or they're not going to be relevant, or they're not going, like, they have to be in one division or another. That's fine. If they're not that relevant, then it's like, yeah, okay, well, why are we featuring you? Like, what's the point? You're not part of the story that we're trying to tell. So, and if you're not ever going to be part of that story that they're trying to tell, it's like, well, at a certain point, it's time to move on. It's time to do something else. Josh Alexander versus Santana. Anyway, this is the last thing, so I'll try to finish off before rambling on for too friggin' long. I know, sorry, but it's just so crazy. But anyway, did I say a winner for these matches? Slamovich is winning, probably because she's got to have a match with Tessa, so that only makes sense. Did I say winning? I think the Elegance duo are, but I don't know because it's so stupid. Grace is losing, obviously. Yeah, Alexander's losing this one, obviously, because, again, he's probably leaving, and he's just been on, effectively, jobber status to the stars for the last few weeks, so, yeah, that's where we're at. Unfortunately, it is one of those things. When you know what sort of some of these things are going to be, it's like, you know, yeah, it's really annoying, but whatever. You can't do anything about it, and some of these things are just, you know, inevitable or whatever, I don't know, silly, I don't know. Is there anything else super duper that I can think of that would be on this show? Something to do with Macklin, Eric Young, and the system, maybe something to do with First Class. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Like, I feel like a few pre-show matches, but like, I think like I can't remember who actually said this, but like saying that, you know, having too many matches on a card is actually kind of bad. I think like for a 2 or 3 hour show, yeah, that like having like 4 or 5, maybe 6 matches is probably about the right number, but this is about 7. I still think that that's still like in the realm. I think like double this is where it's like, you know, like that's too many, or it's like, especially for a 3 or 4 hour show, it's like, you know, like you want to give each match like half an hour or whatever, at least, probably, roughly. Especially considering entrances and whatever else. And you need to let, like, this is one thing as well that some of these things don't do anymore, and it's just like, I get the idea of TNA, total non-stop action. That's cool, but thing is, you need to let some things sit, because it's like, you cannot get too many things, too many cooks in the kitchen, to so to speak. Too many things going on because people, like, if you're just bombarding them with things, it's like, you can't focus on these things because there's just too many things, going on and flying by you too quickly for you to freaking absorb them and actually, digest them and go, oh, okay, cool. Or have that moment and having that, like, setup or that moment of going, okay, what's next? Oh, this is next. Or whatever it is. It's just one of those things you've got to, figure out, like, the whole, kit and caboodle, so to speak. You've got to friggin' understand that it's not just, like, I don't know, like, I would love to run my own wrestling promotion, but the thing is, it's a lot of work, and I understand that. It's one of those things. You can't bat 1,000. But knowing these sorts of things, these guys know these sorts of things. They've been in the business for years. Tommy Dreamer's been in the business for years. And they should learn from their mistakes. And they should realize, hey, well, why aren't we using this person, or why aren't we using that person more? Or, we've got to find time for these people. We've got to, cut things down to make things, and having useless things that are on the show that don't really further things or don't really increase anything. It's just like, well, what's, like, and I get it sometimes, again, maybe because Hammerstone and Jake Something Hammerstone got injured and Jake Something, that tag team fell apart, so they had to do something. So I get that. Maybe that was what they were going to do, or something that they were going to do, or whatever. But again, like, having just another 2 or 3 minute match, yes, like, as I said, you've got to have these shorter matches. But I still think you've got to have a match that's, like, at least probably 10 minutes on TV. It's just not feasible to have, and it's not really worth having a 3-minute match or a 5-minute match or something like that. It's just too short. There's nothing in it, So it's one of those things. You've got to friggin' see that, you can't just have matches. You can't just have promos. You've got to have, a bit of each. You've got to have these moments. You've got to build these things. And most of the time they have a bit of each, but sometimes it feels like, here's a match that you didn't really need. You could have used that time that you used on that match for something else, or for somebody else, or to help build something else that somebody else was doing. Again, even if you said, oh, Li Ling Lee is back, or whatever, and she's come to face Savannah Evans finally, or whatever it is, after Savannah Evans kills somebody in the ring, or whatever it is, in a few minutes, for 3 minutes, or whatever. And like, that match was pretty darn short too, realistically, as well. But again, like, still, friggin' have her go out there and have her square up to her and have them have a fight. Again, I get that they were having, Tessa and that were having a fight as well, but, let them have a friggin' fight, or let them friggin', square off or something, and set them up to fight on the pay-per-view, even if it's on the pre-show, because then at least you've got a time and a place for people to be, like, hyped to see it. Not just, oh, she beat her. Oh, okay, well, I guess, she's back to jobber status or whatever. Or maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Who knows? Who cares? Because obviously they don't care. They just threw her to the lions at the first friggin', hurdle or whatever it was. It's like, well, that doesn't do anything for anyone. It doesn't do anything for Savannah. It doesn't do anything for Li Ling Lee, because now what is she going to do? She's got nothing to work with now, because she just beat the person that she should have been feuding with for another, maybe month or two, and then, or whatever, like, for God's sake. Like, that's what I mean. And honestly, like, as I said, with Grace and Tessa, it really should be a stipulation. It's like these girls, like, hate each other. They hate each other's guts. Like, having a regular match isn't going to cut it. Maybe they'll announce a new, like, match stipulation at some point in regards to it. But, you know, like, it should already be a stipulation. You know, like, there's no point in, you know, trying to figure out or trying not to figure out that it's a stipulation, because it's obviously not going to end well if it's not stipulated. You know, it's obviously going to end in DQ or something like that if it still has like regular rules, because these girls want to tear each other apart. Like, don't be so silly, you know, like, to say, oh, well, you know, we built this up really big and now it's just a regular match. Like, and again, like, why is Rosemary and Marsha, like, the match that it is? It makes some amount of sense. But, again, it's not like these girls have ever really faced each other, not that I'm aware of. But it's like, yeah, Rosemary spit mist in Marsha's eyes, and then she cut up a couple of promos that didn't air for, like, 3 weeks. Again, like, it's like, what were you doing? Like, you need to build this match up. You should have announced it like weeks ago, and probably the same thing as, again, you should have had these other matches announced in the first week. You should have had Ace Austin versus Moose. You should have had the Hardys. I think they announced the Hardys versus Rascals and Moose at the same time, but it should have been the week after. Like, it should have been literally the week after. It was like, I think actually Rascals and that weren't they? And wasn't Ace? I don't know, actually. But, like, it's like, technically it was during the taping, but it's just like, when these things are, like, put out, it's like, and again, same thing, Marsha and Rosemary, the first promos of that should have been out at the same time. Like, you can go without perhaps announcing Santana and, Walking Weapon, that one. That's alright. You can probably go without having to announce the Elegances versus Spitfire. That's probably fine. Those are lower matches, and same with maybe Blanchard versus Grace. That's a big match, but it like, the amount of build that's there, people already kind of know that it's gonna happen. So it's like, well, obviously keep people's, you know, eyes tuned in, but again, it's like the bigger matches, they need that. Like, most of them need that, you know, and again, the shows need that. They need these big matches to be announced so that you could go, hey, look, this is what you're gonna get to see, you know, tune in or buy a ticket or whatever. Find a way to watch this. But again, it's just one of those things, like, I know that not everyone can be, like, special, but it's like, or, you know, whatever, a main eventer or whatever you want to call it. But again, like, there's so few people for friggin' Marsha to go up against. There's so few people now for Lee to go up against now. It's like, besides Blanchard, like, who's she gonna go up against? There isn't anyone for her to go up against. She went through friggin' Lisha on TV. And that match was probably too short too. I was like, what are you doing? I don't understand. So, but whatever. It is what it is, guys. And I will enjoy it, obviously, because I really enjoy everything that they do, but it's just some of the decision making here and there of some of these things, like when you have two promos, and they were almost back, like, for Rosemary, and they were almost back to back. It's like, well, I didn't really even have time to digest your first promo, let alone now you're having another promo. Like, I don't know. It's like too much of the same thing. Like, yes, you could do that, but you have to have a big gap between them. You have to have one almost at the start of the show and then the other one almost at the end of the show or something like that. so that it has that time to, sort of be in the back of your mind a little bit, and then she comes back out and says, hey, I want, this match with you, whatever. Let's rip each other apart, whatever. It's all about the timing of some of these things. And, if I was sitting there to make this show and edit it, that's what I would do. I would say, okay, I've got all this footage. Why is this here and why is that not there? Or why, that's what I mean. It's not just saying, this is what we want on this week. Well, from an editing perspective, same thing. Why are you why you're not putting this there or that here, or why are you doing it in that regard or this regard or whatever else it is? Yeah, and why did you make that decision to say, oh, well, Savannah's just going to lose? What was the point of that? What, instead of it making people invested in a story or in a moment, or seeing the payoff at some point and saying, okay, we're gonna see this payoff. Here it is. It's you shouldn't always just give people things on a silver platter. Look at the thing that you did with Joe Hendry for months. You built it up and built it up and built it up. And now there could be that big payoff, whether it is happening or whether it's not happening. But people are super invested. You should do that with every single thing. You shouldn't just give somebody, here you go, you win. And again, it's you look at a lot of the guys that are up there, Santana, Macklin, it's dude, what are these guys going to do? Because they've got hardly any opponents to go against. So what are they meant to do? Again, it's just so crazy. I don't know. And that's the problem of having a very thin roster at the moment, and having a bunch of people injured. But again, it's also the decision making of saying, oh, we'll put Hammerstone into the tag team division. Yes, the tag team division needs more people too. But again, I don't know whether he pissed somebody off, or no one likes him or something, or whatever it is, and they don't want to push him as being one of their top guys or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But again, it's even if he's not going to win the title, at least give him that space to be in that level against some of these other guys. At least give him something to work with. At least give those other guys something to work with. It works for everyone. If you're not going to give these guys anything to work with, then what are people tuning in to see? They're tuning in to see a whole bunch of nothing. A few things mean something and that's it. Everything should mean something. Same with, I've been saying this for ages, the digital media title is the most useless title in the company. It's even lower than the women's tag team titles, because they haven't even mentioned it or even featured it, or PCO hasn't even defended it since winning it. He's had it for whatever it's been, 6 months or whatever it's been, and he hasn't even defended it. I think he defended it against Cardona, and that was the one time that he defended it, and that was it. It's what the hell are you doing? If you don't have time for something, get rid of it. It's really silly. You've got all these people, and yet you're not really doing anything with them. Turn somebody heel. Do something with them. Give them a purpose to work towards being the champion, because there is not nearly enough heels. There is way too many baby faces, and some of these guys need something to do while they're, waiting to get to the title, and they need something to really sink their teeth into. I don't know who or what or where or how or why you're going to do those things, but that's up to you. But friggin' well, do something, because it's you can't just keep sitting there and going, oh, well, we'll wait to see. No. Maybe you're setting something up. Sure, that's fine. You're planting the seeds, but you've got to be, saying, no, all right, we already have these plans. We already know where we're going. We're already going to do this, and we're going to do that. Right. And we're going to put, time and investment into this, or time and investment into that, so that this is where we're going, But yeah, so annoying sometimes. But that's professional wrestling. You love to be annoyed by the highs and the lows. Like I feel like once Genesis comes around, there'll be a lot of things different, or at least maybe that live episode, because a lot of the contracts will be up. They'll have a lot more money to play with, and I think this is one thing that I think that they really need to take away from Anthem. They shouldn't allow Anthem to actually dictate how much they do, or who they hire, or whatever else. All this sort of stuff, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, whatever else it is. Because you don't just need people, that are in front of the camera. You do need the people that are behind the camera, or, doing those other jobs, or whatever it is. But again, like, it's still one of those things that you need those people in front of the camera. You need those stars. And it sucks when people get injured. But it's like, well, that's what you've got to work with. You've got to work with the fact that people sometimes get injured. And now you need to find some way to feature somebody else or something else, so that, again, there is something there for that person or for the fans to tune into each and every week. So that they can be like, oh, okay, this new person's come in. And it's like, oh, okay, well, they got injured, or whatever it was. It's like, well, now we've got to do something. Or now at least announce it. At least announce this person was injured, or whatever. They're away, blah, blah, blah. Or at least have them do interviews or something else. Like here and there, maybe, or whatever it is. It's like they've spent so much time on Chris Bay, and absolutely he deserves, everything. He deserves some help and whatnot. But all these other people that have gotten injured or whatever else, no time spent on them. No mention of them. No saying, hey, by the way, if you don't donate to this, if you want to help Hammerstone, or donate to that, or whatever. Oh, by the way, he's all right, or whatever. So, but he does have, Patreon or GoFundMe or whatever else. Like, no mention of any of that other stuff. It's like they've got their favorites and they don't care really about anyone else. It's like, still, and I know people accuse D'Amore of that, but it's like, it still feels very much like that. They don't really care about some of these other guys. It's like, dude, you need to, even if you don't like them, or what, again, same thing I was saying, I don't know whether somebody's pissed somebody off or somebody doesn't like somebody or whatever it is, get over it, okay? Because, you need to build your roster. You need to be not selfish or not thinking about your own feelings or your own perspective on these things. You need to be going, okay, how can we entertain the audience? How can we, because we need to make as many of these people doing stuff together as possible. We've got an intimate crew, that's fine if you are giving them all something to do with each other, But again, I think they should find a way to have their own quote-unquote piggy bank or whatever else. Something where they can say, okay, we're going to start hoarding our own money, and we're going to decide on, TV production, pyro, entrances, ring attire, whatever else. Music, signings, like everything that we need, lighting, blah, 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 seating, everything that we really, really need to, get people to seeing that this is not just, and there are, again, some people who I will say might not fall into that and might say, I'm not really that interested, not really that bothered, or whatever else it is. But, if people are there to say, hey, yeah, I'm up for that or down for that, I will collab or we'll talk about it, we'll figure it out, you should be all over that, because it's like, well, now we've got more ways, not for just for them to make money, but for us to make money, and for, for everyone to make money. And for, that, again, promotion and, sort of stuff to be out there and getting more eyes onto it and getting, again, even more money and whatnot. So, again, you've got to be continually, swinging for the fences and swinging for the best thing that you can swing for. Not just saying, oh, well, I guess we're not going to do anything with this. We're just going to leave it there and forget about it and hope people kind of forget about it or whatever else, or like whatever. It's like, that doesn't help. Like, that just devalues everything. Like, and if you're not going to do things with these guys, it's like, at a certain point, why did you bring them in? What was the point in bringing, Callahan back? Or what's the point in having this person on your roster or having the belt on PCO? It's like, well, what's he doing? Like, what's he doing with it? Again, every single thing is like that. It's like, you can find the flaw in anything, but there's so many little great things that are there. It's like, I'm sure some people could do a really great job with having the chance to be digital media champion or whatever. Like, but it's like, well, if you start saying, okay, well, we're going to put it all on Explosion, or we're going to put it all on YouTube, or it's all going to be on TNA Plus. All these things that are related to the digital media title are all going to be on our, digital platforms exclusively for the TNA Plus to those subscribers. First off, same with like Explosion, or just on Explosion, whatever it is. I don't care. But again, do something and then say, okay, well, after that, it's going to be available like normal as it is. Like Explosion is. Or available on YouTube, or available on Access, or whatever. Making an Impact in 60, or TNA in 60, or whatever it is. Done. Friggin' easy. But again, no. There's just like, we can't be bothered, or whatever. We turn up, once a month, and, well, this is what we thought of, and, whatever. Bye, guys. See you next month, or whatever. Let so-and-so figure it out, or whatever, But again, if I had got that stuff, I would have, been trying to say, and maybe someone was trying to say, hey, why is this like this, or why is that like this? It's like, this doesn't make any sense, man. This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, whatever. It's one of those things that we have to, try to push them to be, this is what I mean. It's not just me complaining and saying they're bad or they're whatever. As I said, I'm happy to watch it all the time. But again, it's just one of those things. We've got to push them to be not just better, but the best, as good as what they can be, to make everything be, important, and for people to be caring about, what's going on, and, to be hyped about, everything that's on the show. Like I say, the girls don't have to draw absolutely everyone into the arena, but again, they should be treated like, hey, well, we're going to make sure that your thing, what you're doing and where you're at, is presented in that way to make it look like, hey, you're the most important thing, or one of the most important things that we've got going on. So, but anyway, guys, that is it for this one. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll join me again in another one.